Hello everybody and welcome back to Typical City. On the morning of the UEFA Super Cup, City get busy, blooming busy in the transfer market. Lots of bits of snippets of information coming in, coming out, and lots of information to-ing and fro-ing Manchester City are doing. But let's start with the big one, Dani Olmo. City are reportedly targeting Dani Olmo from RB Leipzig, a player that's a silky smooth midfield player that can cover every position across the whole midfield. Those who didn't watch the German Super Cup, he only went and bagged himself a hat-trick against Bayern Munich, Harry Kane's Bayern Munich, pissing all over the bonfire that Harry Kane wanted to finally lift a trophy. But Dani Olmo said no, and go and watch his second goal, by the way. I'm not even sure that second goal was on purpose. I think he got a bit lucky the way the intent was good. He intended to spin his player, but the fact that it hit the back of his heel, I think he did this beautiful spin round the back of his standing leg, and his standing leg, then the ball hits it and it actually knocks it through. It's a little bit Bergkamp-esque against Newcastle, and you question whether he meant it with Bergkamp. No, you meant it. He meant it. He had that air of luck about it. But anyway, sublime goal, tucks it underneath Sommer's legs, right between the legs, lovely goal. Penalty was the third goal. First goal was a lovely goal as well. So a hat-trick against Bayern Munich isn't a bad start to the 23-24 season. But I do question the legitimacy of this contract offer, this offer from City rather. The actual talk, speaking of contracts, that's what I wanted to get onto. The guy signed a contract in June 2023. So the likeliness of this deal going ahead and City having to break the bank for him, I've already heard plenty of City fans saying, he's a perfect alternative to Paqueta. Really? Even cheaper alternative, I've heard. Well, RB Leipzig are starting at 80 million, apparently. He does have a 55 million buyout clause, but that doesn't come into effect until the summer of 2024. So we're going to have to wait a year to get a decent price for this kid. And I say kid, he's 25 years old. In fact, let's look at his stats. 31 appearances. This is of last season. 31 appearances. They are decent stats when you stack them up against the minutes. If you look at the minutes of 1,638 with 5 goals to his name and 11 assists, they're good numbers, really good numbers. An impressive player that I think he fits the bill for City and he would be a good signing, but my personal preference is Paqueta. I think he is a proven Premier League player. I think he's got gears to go through. I've seen people complaining that I said he's on a leash at West Ham. Well, yeah, he's playing as a central midfielder and sometimes as a deep lying central midfielder as well. So if that's not a leash for a Brazilian flair player, I don't know what is, because unleash him, let him play on the wide positions, let him play in attacking midfield, find the spaces, find the channels. And I think Paqueta is being wasted at West Ham under David Moyes' policy and his particular formation, whereas Dani Olmo is given the space to flourish, and these are the stats that you get with Dani Olmo. And I think he's a good player. I just question the legitimacy of it, coming from Damasio from Sky Sports international reporter. So his track record's mixed. It hasn't come from anyone that reputable. And the fact that I don't think he's looked into the contract side of things and highlighting the fact that, which I'm doing for you right now, he signed a contract a month ago. So a couple of months ago. So now we're going to have to pay 80 million. Well, if we're going to the 80 million pound mark for Dani Olmo and we're already in for Paqueta, I don't understand the logic there, to be honest, unless it's as well as. So you're saying to me that City are going to sign Paqueta, Dani Olmo and Jeremy Doku. That would be nice. Don't get me wrong. I'd love it. But the realistic part of me is saying that's not going to happen. Even including the Kevin De Bruyne injury. I know we've said it's 4 months and we could end up getting into 2024 before we see Kevin De Bruyne don a Manchester City shirt again. I still don't believe that City are going to go out and get 3 new players, namely 2 new players to replace Kevin De Bruyne. I know he's that good, but then we have got other options. We have got other options that can play in there. We don't have to go out and splash the cash just because Kevin De Bruyne is injured. And it's not like he's dead. You know what I mean? He's coming back at Christmas or maybe 2024. It doesn't mean you need to go and spend £80 million to fix a 4-month problem. It doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make sense to me. So ultimately, I don't think this one is going to happen. Long term, I think Paqueta makes more sense to me. I think Dani Olmo, I think you've got problems in the contract negotiation, the fact that the buyout clause cannot be activated. Similar to Paqueta, I know he's got a buyout clause of 85 million that doesn't come into play until summer of 24, the same as Dani Olmo. But I just feel like that's got more legs to it. I think City have invested more in this particular player. Lucas Paqueta is more of an interest to Manchester City, and I think that's the one that's more likely. Obviously, if we don't get Paqueta, then Dani Olmo comes into play. I can't see both happening. I can't see both. My personal preference would be Paqueta. I think it's City's as well. Seeing as you're hearing about the news in order, in chronological order, you're hearing about this information in the order that City are interested in, I believe. So we'll have to wait and see whether this one actually goes through. And RB Leipzig have already stated they do not want to sell. So this is one's going to rumble on, this one. If it is going to be a genuine transfer target, this one isn't going to be a quick fix. So, yeah, personal preference, Paqueta. But what do you guys think? Who would you prefer out of Paqueta and Dani Olmo? I've seen plenty of people sitting on the fence. I've seen some on both sides of it. So, interesting. Other news, Bernardo Silva signs a new contract, 2026. This comes from Fabrizio Romano, a bit of information that is just, I'll lap it up. I'll lap this up. This is arguably City's best bit of business throughout the whole summer transfer window. I know 77 million for Guardiola is incredible, really good bit of business. But there's always a question mark about any player you sign. Any player will come in and say, is he going to find his feet? Is he going to bed himself into the Premier League and Manchester City way as quickly as we hope? Is he going to take a season to do it? You know what you're getting with Bernardo Silva. There's no question marks about Bernardo Silva. It does exactly what he says on the tin. And that tin says world-class football player who will score you goals, who will get you assists and will work his socks off until he's got blood pouring out of the blisters at the bottom of his feet. This player is worth every single penny, worth every minute that City spent in the ear of Bernardo Silva, persuading him to ignore PSG, ignore Barcelona. This is the player for me that's the signing of the summer. I think it really is that big. I really do. And I think to keep him till 2026, it's a great bit of business. Fantastic news for Manchester City fans. In lesser news, not so good news, is Aymeric Laporte on his way to Al Nassr of the Saudi Pro League. Now, I'm happy for him if he's happy. You know, you question whether he actually is happy. That's the issue for me. Why are no European clubs coming in for him is beyond me. I don't understand. Is his wages too much? Is there something that they're seeing in this player that the rest of us are not privy to? I don't know. Is it personal preferences? Does he not want to live in Europe anymore? Has he got a real eye for the Saudi atmosphere? I don't know. It doesn't make that much sense to me. Are you bothered about the Saudi league? Is it worrying you, the number of players that are going over there? Because this is a 29-year-old in the peak of his career, centre-back, leaving European champions and joining the Saudi league. I think all the other players have gone like, okay, how good are you? Like at the same, even Ruben Neves, who's like 27, 28-year-old central midfielder, he's arguably in his peak. But why were no other clubs coming in for Ruben Neves of Wolves? You know, United, City, Liverpool, Chelsea, all of the big boys, they never went in for him truthfully and meant it, you know what I mean? And he ends up going to the Saudi league. Other than that, the rest of the players are in their 30s basically, and players that I'm not that worried about there. It's a retirement home for a lot of them and a big payday as well. Are you worried about are they going to be able to generate the tribalism that's involved in the Premier League, the association, the legacy of every single football club in this country? You can't manufacture that. You can't. So I personally am not worried about the Saudi League. I think this could be a flash in the pan. Over time, they may amalgamate something that's a little bit more fruitful and appealing on the eye, and it gets more fans to watch it. But as they're doing that, the Premier League's growing at the same time. So I can't see them ever making the Premier League surplus in comparison to the viewers. I just can't see it happening. And then in smaller news, James McAtee has been linked. I say smaller. He himself is smaller than all the other players that I've talked about. But in terms of the actual size of the transfer dealing, it bothers me a little bit. James McAtee to Ajax is the latest reports that he is being eyed up to join Carlos Borges over at Ajax. Now, I don't think this should happen. And one of the reasons why I don't think we should go and break the bank for both Paqueta and Dani Olmo. Personally, I think you're better off just keeping James McAtee. If City are rejecting £30 million bids for him, I question how far they've got to go. Is Ajax coming in with a loan move or are they coming in with a permanent move? There's no word on their decision whether it's loan or permanent. So that's a factor to take in. Ajax is obviously a fantastic club to go and grow. So many players go and grow and go above and beyond what they were predicted to be because of the Ajax academy and the setup that they have, the youth setup that they have is elite level youth setup, and they continuously churn out world-class players. McAtee going over there would probably walk into their first team. You know, maybe not easily, but he'll get into their first team and play regular football, which he's not going to get at Manchester City. But what's he getting on the training pitch at Ajax that he will get at City? You know, under Pep Guardiola's tutelage, he will learn so much more that you're never going to get at Ajax. How to conduct yourself as a player, as a person, as well, positional sense and the midfield role, which Guardiola knows on the back of his hand. He doesn't even need to look at it. He knows that role perfectly. So I don't think this should happen. I think City should block this move. I don't think we should go for Dani Olmo. I do think we should go for Paqueta, keep James McAtee. Obviously, that then beds us over through this 4-month period without Kevin De Bruyne. Personally, I think I would rather have Paqueta, Doku, keep McAtee and bring him on. Bed him in, throw him in for 10, 15 minutes, maybe even in the lower league games or in cup games, League Cup, FA Cup, throw him into a few games, depending on who we draw, of course. But I hope we keep James McAtee. I really do. But Blues, get in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Dani Olmo, do you think he's worth it? Would you rather Paqueta? Would you rather Dani Olmo? Bernardo Silva, new contract. I can only imagine that's good news for anyone whose ears listen to that bit of information. It's fantastic news. Laporte, on his way to Saudi, does the Saudi League bother you? Are you worried about the Saudi League? And James McAtee, is he worth keeping at Manchester City? Get your comments in below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And join me at the watch-along later this evening. I will be doing a live watch-along. It will be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Come on, Blues. Get in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like and subscribe. Typical City is the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now.